So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for some approach where I can write some numbers. So think of this as a few numbers here. Say it's a 0, and if I write here 12, and if I write here 89, and here I write 2. Okay, think of this as a array which right now we have. Now, if I want to find a minimum and maximum, both I want to write. So see, I don't want to write a different algorithm for minimum and max. A combined algorithm which will most efficiently calculate the minimum number of its minimum number and the maximum number of given array. So how do you think we can write that algorithm? So the first approach is to do a n scans here. The first approach is to check whether this is minimum and this is maximum or not. Second approach, whether this is minimum or maximum. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so on and that. So we are going on that basic concept of scanning all the elements and just keeping a note of minimum and maximum. So I think you all know that. For example, if I take first, what I'll do is I'll set minimum and maximum as the first element. Then I'll compare this minimum and maximum with second element. If the earlier minimum is greater than this, then I update this one. And if earlier max is less than, then I update the max. For example, so every time I do check for whether min is greater than the element. If it is greater, it means that my minimum is not the actual minimum. I have found one more element which is far less than the existing minimum. Okay, so in that case, I update that minimum. In case of max, what condition you will use? If existing max is less than the current element you have read, it means that whatever the max element which you stored previously, it is not the maximum. The current element is that. So in that case, you will update the max. So here you will update the max. So when your instruction is at here, which element is updated? Is minimum greater than the a of I? No, it is not greater, means my minimum is already minimum. So max. So 3 less than 5? Yes. So max I have is not the max. The current element is actually of higher value than the element I have. So what I do? I update this. Okay. So on I go. So I go to this for 9. When my cursor is at 9, what gets updated? This gets updated. So when I am at here, what gets updated? The minimum gets updated. So it becomes 0. So when I'm here, once again the max gets updated because previous max is 12, previous max is 9, and the new 12. So this gets updated. So minimum means same, max get updated. So it becomes 89. And last we have 2. So neither minimum nor maximum gets updated. But we did the comparison operation. So now here for this algorithm, if I want to find the number of comparisons, how many comparisons I have done? So how many elements I have? So if you check the count here, I have 8 elements. So total size is 8. So I compared 3 with this, I compared 3 with this. So 2 comparisons here, 2 comparisons here, 2, 2, 2 and 2. How many 2s I have? If n is 8, so I did 7. So total number of comparison is 7 into, right now, if I denote the total size by n, it is n minus 1. Okay. So 7 comparisons. So if I write it in terms of actual n notation, so per element I am doing 2 comparisons. Likewise, how many comparisons I am doing? For n minus 1, elements. Okay, so these are actual number of comparisons. So if 2 into n minus 1 comparisons I'm doing for this array, what will be the big O complexity of that? Can you guess what would be the big O complexity? Just let me know. What should I write? Big O of 2n, big O of n, big O of n square. Yeah, so it is big O of n. So this will be your complexity of this approach. Okay, so this is one. Now, can I think of any other approach? So I should look for any other approach which can minimize this or this. So which is less than O of n, least than O of n is log n. So I need to search for any such approach which can go for log n, or I need to find out, is there any approach where I can minimize this? If I can minimize this, then I would automatically, if possible, I might get a lesser big O of notation. So there is one more approach to this, calculating minimum number of elements. So how is that calculated? Let me just put this in some different color. Okay, so now I'll write one more algorithm for this. Here, let's make it as black. Okay, so we are working on this approach. So for time being, let me hide this approach. Okay, so I'm looking for some another approach. In this another approach, what we do is we look at the number of elements in this. How many elements we have? N is equal to 8. So let me write n is equal to 8. So I have an even number of elements. If I have an even number of elements, what I do is, instead of comparing each element with min and max, what I do is I start creating a pair of two numbers. So initially what I'll do is I'll always compare these two pairs. So let me say this is one pair, this is one pair, and this would be the second pair, third pair, and this would be, so how many pairs I have? One, second pair, third pair of two elements, and fourth pair of two elements. So now whenever I want to compare here, my conditions will not be this. What I'll do, I will first compare, I'll take the first pair. Okay, the first pair is 0th element and first element. If I take first pair, I will see which of this is lesser and which of this is greater. So I will first check ARR of I. I'll check if it is less than ARR of I plus 1. This is first pair. Okay. So if it is less, if you compare these two, and if you find that if ARR I is less, then what will be the minimum for you? First minimum here, the minimum would be ARR of I, or you can just we will not write a notation, we'll just check it for this. If when you are comparing pair 1, first pair, okay, our logic would actually start from second pair onwards. So when you have compared first pair, the minimum would be 1, because obviously ARR of I, first element is less than second one, 1 is less than 3, and max would be the second element, right? This is your first pair. Now I will move this window to the next pair. So now the next pair is 5 and 7. Remember, here I'm not moving one cell by one cell. I am moving two cells at a time. So this is first pair. Now when I go to second pair here, 5, 9. Now what I'll do is I'll first check which of this is I'll check for this condition. ARRI is less than its next element. Yes, 5 is less than 9. If 5 is less than 9, how you will compare minimum and maximum? So when I am at this pair, what is the status of this condition? True. It is true. Earlier minimum you had is 1 and 3. So now you will what compare? Obviously out of this 2, this is minimum. So now what you will do is you will check minimum. Is my current minimum less than the minimum of these 2? You will check for this. So as per our conditions, I will check if the current minimum is greater than the new minimum found. Okay, the new minimum is, here you will write result of ARRI less than ARR of I plus 1. Okay, for your checking, the result minimum is less than, if it is greater than the minimum of this, then you will update this one. Right now the minimum is 1, and is 1 greater than 5? No, so there is no need to update. So what is max of 5 and 9? So if it is less, then obviously the 9 is max. So this 9 max, it has to compare with what? It has to be compared, since this is greater, it will be compared with the max of the existing max. So existing max is less than 9. So now we need to update it to 9. So here what we check if the existing max, so instead of greater than in that, we'll just compare. Okay. The less than greater than might be slightly confusing. We'll just compare that. Okay. So now when I'm at this pair, first find which is lesser of these 2 pairs. So when I compare when I get the least element of these 2 pairs, that least element I'll check with minimum, and the max element from this I'll check with the existing max element. Okay. So I move to second pair. Once again I do that. The minimum of these 2 will be checked with this. The maximum of this will be checked with the max of that. So for each pair, so here it is my initialization logic. The second one is this pair. For each pair, how many comparison I am doing? The first comparison is finding minimum of these 2. First comparison. Then when I compare the result of this with min, the second comparison. And when the third comparison is the result of this compared with max. So 3 comparisons per pair. So if I have n equal to 8, how many pairs I will get? So n is 8, right? N is 8. How many pairs I am getting? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 pairs. N is 8. So if I have n10, how many pairs I will get? 5. N is 50. How many pairs? By 2. So I would be getting 25 pairs. So for each pair, I am doing how many comparisons? 3 comparisons. Finding minimum within this pair and comparing the result of this with min and max. So 3 comparisons per pair. So overall, how many comparisons I will be doing? So this first pair comparison, if I ignore this, if it is initialization value, so we will not come. What we will do is we'll directly set minimum is equal to this. If I ignore the first pair, since it's the initialization one, so I usually do 3 times the comparison of, how many times I do? 3 comparisons for n by 2 pair. Okay, and I always ignore the first two comparisons. So this first two initialization, I'll ignore them. So it would be 3n minus, this would be the number of comparisons for this. So if given the relation 3 into n by 2 minus 2, what would be the big O notation? Still it would be O of n. So now if I compare this with my earlier approach, which is better? This is better or this is better? So line number 7, this comparison is better, or and let us do one thing. Let us call this as approach B, and let us call this as approach A. So which approach is better when I compare this, just these two? Let me highlight it in some color. Okay, so let me check your response. Okay, so most of you are saying the B, yes. So B has less number of comparisons because it is obviously 2n, and if you just take out, it is always 3 into n by 2, almost 1.5 times of n. This is almost twice the n. So as you can see here, we have two algorithms, algorithm A and algorithm B, and algorithm B, both are of O of n. See, this O of n stands for asymptotic notation. As I said, asymptotic notation is comparing the performance of algorithm at very large scale. Large scale in the sense, almost to a level where your n approaches to infinity. I hope you are with n tends to infinity. So when we analyze at that level, we call it as asymptotic notation. So by looking at asymptotic location, both algorithms look same. But when we actually look at number of instructions, slightly they differ. This is better than the algorithm A. So given this algorithm, we have to write a program so to implement this approach. Since this approach is trivial, you can write your own algorithm for that. What I'll do is I'll write a program for this approach, the pairwise approach, and we will calculate how much time it takes, and I will leave it to you to calculate time for this algorithm and compare this with this algorithm. And I want you to note down the results, and we can discuss what are these results in the next lecture. Okay, so shall we move to writing a program for this approach? I think we have it's almost 10:16. We have 15 more minutes. Let us quickly write try to write a program for this. Okay, so you are all fine with Python, right? Python. Okay, so let me switch to PyCharm. Are you comfortable with PyCharm IDE? We use a PyCharm IDE for Python. So let me switch to PyCharm. Okay, so can you see my screen? Okay, okay, let me write a program. So I am on a screen window. So if anything you required, I might not have access to. Let me see if I can have access to your chat window as well. Okay, now I have access to chat window as well as screen. Okay. So what the first thing I need to do is to have an input array. What we will do is we will have the input array as a random array of size 10. We'll randomly take an element. We'll initialize that array randomly. Okay. So what we'll do is we will import the packages required for this. So in order to generate random numbers, I need a package called as random numbers. And let me take an array of numbers called as numbers is equal to, how do I get this is random dot sample. I want few numbers in a range. So let me take. So if I give a range, I get a list of numbers in that. So from that list of numbers, I'll randomly choose few numbers for me. So 1, 2, if I take 100, and out of 100, I want, let's say, for initially, I'll go with 15 elements in that. So I hope you know this syntax. Let me just, you will get an understanding what I'm trying to get this here. So now if I print numbers here, see what I'm doing, I'm creating a list. Numbers will become a list. So random dot sample. What I'm asking, first generate 100 numbers. 100 numbers here, it starts from 0 to 99. This is exclusive. So create a list of a range of 100 numbers, and out of that, choose 15 numbers randomly. That's what I'm telling here. So now when I print numbers here, I will get, so the shortcut I guess is Shift F10. So I'm running my program. So you can see that I am getting a random 15 numbers in the range of 0 to 100. That's the code for that. If I run again, you should find some more new list because newer number list. Again, run it, some different numbers. Okay, I hope you understood this printing numbers. So now, since I have a list of numbers, I need to find minimum and maximum. So let me initialize two variables. Min number is equal to, just let me first initialize everything to 0 here, and max number is equal to 0. So if you do not write 0, they get initialized to default value. In Python, numbers do get initialized to default if they are int. So it is always better to initialize if you want a specific number to be specifically used as int. So I have this minimum number in that. So what is the first thing? And I think 15 will be a little bit odd number. Let us take it as 16. So we only saw logic for even number, array of size even number. If it is odd, slightly initialization method changes that we will look at later on. Okay. So in order to simplify this program, we'll only consider array of size even. Okay. If I have 16, what is the first thing I have done? The first thing I'll do is the minimum number, I will initialize it as, let me first check if numbers of 0 means first element. If it is less than numbers of 1, right? If it is the case, which is let us do one thing. We'll not mess with this initialization. We will write this code here. If this is the case, we'll initialize min number is equal to from numbers 0th element. Else minimum number is equal to 1, and you can guess what would be the other sentence. If 1 is minimum, then the max should be numbers of 1. So here max number is equal to numbers of 0. Okay, have you understood till this point? You can just respond in chat window. I hope you understood this till this point. We have just tried to initialize the first pair. Okay. After doing it for first pair, now we will for second pair onward. So we will take one variable I is equal to 0. Now I need to move from loop to loop. So now I'll write a while I is less than So I need to move one pair, second pair, third pair, fourth pair. So on, I need to move till the length of the array. So for the length of array, we'll initialize one field and I'll call length of numbers is equal to, how do I calculate length? This notation. LEN of numbers will give me a length of numbers. Okay. So I already have length of numbers. I've initialized to 1. Later I'll explain why I am calculating that and why I am not calling length functions multiple times. As of now, it should be length of numbers. Should it be length of numbers? No. Since I'm moving for a pair, I don't want to move to the last element. So I'll only move till length -1 because I'm moving a pair of two window, and two window. So I don't want to cross that one. So, and every time I do that, what I need to do? I need to increment I by 2. So this is what, this loop is what, which helps me move this pair windows by a stride of 2 and 2 and 2. So in the each iteration of this, what's the first thing I check? What's the first thing I'm checking? As per our logic, what was the first thing I was checking? What is minimum element among this pair? So the first thing I'll check, if numbers of I inside pair, if the first element, if it is less, then the numbers from the I plus 1. So the inside pair, the first element is less. If the first element is less, what should I check? This is minimum. Obviously, this element has to be compared with the minimum of that. Okay. So if numbers of I is less than that, what you will check? You will write one more if existing min is greater than the newly find minimum inside this pair. Existing minimum is already greater. So it should be the existing minimum number is greater than numbers of I. What should I do? Update that. There's a question. He is asking I is equal to 2. Yes, I is equal to 2. You are right, because the first pair initialization we already done. So I will be 2. Okay, so good observation. So now if min number is greater than this, then update min number. Min number is equal to numbers of I. Okay. Then is it the only thing? I'll compare min and one more comparison. Then obviously one is less. Then the second one has to be compared. What I'll compare? If existing maximum number, if it is less than this, say the max of pairs number, I plus 1. If it is greater than, what should I do? I update the max number. Max number is equal to numbers of I plus 1. Okay, so this is the first case. So what if I have not yet written else for this? So the else for this will be, what should I check? So the first number in this pair is not less. The second number is less. In that case, what happens here? The internal conditions only change. So earlier number 1 was minimum. So now the number 2 is minimum. So min number now will be compared with I plus 1. If it is, then update it with I plus 1, and the max number is now compared with the first one. If it is, update this. Okay. So, okay. Fine. So have you understood this logic? This block I was talking about. Hope you have understood that. Whatever we did the comparisons there, the same I have checked. If it is less, compare this with min and this with max. If this is not less and this is less, then you enter into else loop, then compare minimum number with this and this one. So at any point of time per pair, you will only do 3 comparisons. What is the first comparison? This is your first comparison, and out of these 2, these are 2. If this is first comparison, second 2 are that. So for each pair, you will only do 3 comparisons. Okay, so once this loop is done, I can then print the minimum number and maximum number. How do I print here? So let me say minimum number. How do I concat? I do a plus, and since the value is integer, I convert that into string by specifically calling str. So that was for minimum number, and this will be for maximum number. Okay. So let us execute that. So can you tell me some trick, like how do I compare if my minimum is actual minimum of array and my maximum is actual maximum of array? So let me execute this first and we'll go for that one. So I'm pressing shift F10. Okay, I have wrongly written. This is max number. So I get 4 and 88. Let us do one thing. Let us also print this number so that you will get that output as well. Remember, I'm printing this numbers as well, so you can manually compare what is that. So is 1 the minimum? So going on this, 1 is minimum. Yes, I'm able to find. What is maximum element here? Yes, I'm getting 94, so I have 94. So was my algorithm able to get the minimum and maximum? Yes. So let me run it again. Okay, so I have a question that why str? Okay, see, the good thing is to skip this. Generally, you know that I can write plus and it will print that. So the problem with this is if you execute this, you will get an error. Why? Because whenever in Python, when you take a plus, if one operand is string and other is another variable, it tries to do a concatenation. But inside Python 3, sometimes that kind of auto conversion of this type into string is discouraged. So what we need to do, this gives me an error. The plus is used for addition, but here I want to use it for concatenation. If I want to use it for concatenation, it says that convert this into string. So a good way to convert any data type value into string is to use str. You can use for comma as well. So if I make it as comma, then it becomes argument, multiple argument. So generally, when I want to print a string, I always prefer to use plus here. So just check what you will get if I just miss it. You should get some error here. What it says, type must be str, not integer. It cannot concatenate here. So generally, what I do is I prefer, because I always like to retain Java-like syntax. In Java, we do this similar string concatenation. So if you are fine with comma, you are also fine. No issues. So when we use comma, okay, if you ask me, when I use comma here, we use comma when you want some formatted output. Okay, I hope you know formatted output. So inside formatted output, we put this bracket somewhere. Okay, if you look at this, and if I execute this, I'm not able to recall the syntax, but we have a formatted output. It would be like your printf statement, %d, as that time we use this formatted input. But generally, when we want this, I personally prefer str of this. So it is up to you what is your preference. Okay, so this is it. And if you want to check again, remember your Python has built-in minimum function, right? What is that built-in minimum function? Min. If I say min of numbers, you will automatically get the minimum of that. So if I call max of that, automatically get max of numbers. These are built-in functions. So now this is a good way to verify our results as well. So does system also feel it is a minimum? Does system also feel it's maximum? Yes, you can compare. Okay. So now you could ask me a question, sir, if I already have this function, what is the purpose of writing our code? You are exactly right. That is what is the beauty of Python, Java, and high languages. If you ask me a question, if you have learned C, why to learn C++, why to learn Java, why to learn Python? Remember, every language has its very good pros and very good cons, like I mean advantages and disadvantages. We use it at various purposes. Okay, so how do I comment? In Python, we use hash. Okay, so I hope you understood this algorithm. While I write this, instead of comparing n and n, I might need more comparisons if I go for my regular approach of writing n comparisons for minimum, n comparisons of maximum. So this is a good indication that we have an algorithm. Algorithm might have multiple approaches, but at the same time, I might use some of the advanced extensions I get in language to write a better program. So what is conclusion of this? If you write a good algorithm, it doesn't mean that you will always convert it into a good program. If you write a bad algorithm, a programmer can always have some language related advantages with the help of which he can try to minimize the disadvantages of bad algorithm. So remember, it doesn't mean that you have designed algorithm, everything is done. No, there is equal amount of efforts to convert a good algorithm into a good program. So in this course of our analysis of algorithms and design course, we will always try to write a Python program for whatever algorithm which we are at. So now this is the case. I'll tell you the quick small way to calculate time required for that. Let us suppose we always want to compare what time it takes. So if you want to take the time required, let me do one thing. What I do, I take import time, it's a package. And where is my actual algorithm starting? My actual core algorithm is this while loop, right? This while loop is the core of my algorithm. What we do is now coming here, let me just, I'll take. So if I want to check the time required, I'll say T1 timestamp 1 is equal to time dot time. So this time is the package I have imported, Python module, import Python. I'll say here T1 is equal to this, and at the end of this loop, when I come out of that, I'll take another timestamp is equal to time dot time. Okay, so once it is done, and if I want to print the time required, what I do is print required. Give a space, and what should I do is in terms of str, here I do T2 minus T1. Okay, so now if you execute this, you will get the time required to solve. Here you will get 0.0 because my computer is 3 gigahertz, and solving 15, this is very less. So what we'll do is we'll increase this size, right? So I'll increase this range. So how many numbers it is? 1 million. So 160 is 1 million, and number of numbers I'll make it to 50,000 numbers. So now if I execute, slightly it will lower. How much seconds? 0.3. Okay, the minimum is this, maximum is. Now you can see substantial amount of seconds. So what I ask you is, you can write a similar program for your linear, that 2n function, and just see what time you get there. Then report me that time in our next lecture on coming Monday. We'll discuss whether that algorithm is actually time required is less, or this algorithm is taking more time. Let us think of that. Okay, so some of you write the program, give it to me. I'll run your program and my program side by side. Let us compare what time you get for both the programs. Or you can even do, if you have understood this program, you can even do the same on your machine. So that's how we do it. So I have one question. Using length function every time is not efficient. Yes. So there's a question by Darshana. She is asking, why use length numbers only once? Because see, every time you calculate length of numbers, it requires you to, even if it is not, your system will need to count that numbers. So length of numbers here, length of numbers here, length of numbers here. So n times calculating here, n time, and n time. That's a bad way of calculating n. So what we do, we calculate length only once, and that number, wherever we use it, we use it. Okay, I hope the answer is clear.